Hello folks, welcome back to Marvelous Videos, where today we are exploring history's most popular vampire, Count Dracula. Ever since Bram Stoker introduced the blood-sucking Count of Transylvania in his 1897 eponymous novel, Dracula, Count Dracula has been adapted and his story retold many times. Today, we are going to explore the adaptation of Count Dracula in the 2004 movie, Van Helsing. Inspired by Abraham Van Helsing, the vampire expert also introduced by Stoker, the movie was directed by Stephen Sommers and stars Richard Roxburgh as Count Dracula. So let's find out all about this iteration of the deadly vampire. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Origins of Count Dracula. In 1422, Count Dracula was born as the son of Valerius the Elder, a knight of Transylvania, and was named Vladislaus Dragulia. He later took on the name of Dracula. The movie mentions that he was killed in 1462 by Gabriel, who had taken human form. But there are many fan theories as to why Gabriel might have been motivated to kill Dracula. Our favorite theory is that sometime during the 1460s, Dracula joined the Knights of the Holy Order, a group of knights who were dedicated to save the mortal world from monsters. During his service, he befriended the Archangel Gabriel, also known as the left hand of God, who had taken on a human form. The Knights of the Holy Order are sworn to a vow of celibacy, a vow that Dracula ends up breaking after he falls in love with a beautiful woman. This woman had completely bewitched Dracula, and he was in love with her, mind, body, and soul. When the woman was banished and murdered, Dracula was ready to do anything to bring her back to life, and he sought the help of black magic. This forced Gabriel to kill his best friend and take his ring as a souvenir. After the grief of losing his friend and the guilt of killing him took over Gabriel, he asked God to erase all his memories, which brings us back to the events of the movie. Another theory states that Count Dracula became obsessed with the dark arts and necromancy to turn immortal, and Gabriel saw a fellow knight getting corrupted and finished him. We prefer the first theory though, as it fits perfectly into the storyline and also gives us a great bromance. Dealing with the devil. The spirit of Count Dracula was still disturbed, but he sought out Satan himself and made a deal with him for a new immortal life. According to this new deal, Count Dracula would be able to lead an immortal life if he consumed the human blood. Dracula gladly agreed and returned to the mortal world as an undead being and the very first vampire. Valerius, however, was not too happy to see his revived son, and after learning about his deal with the devil, was extremely ashamed of his son. Because of this deal, all of Valerius's family members were condemned to hell. Valerius went to the Vatican City to seek forgiveness from God and bargained for the afterlives of his descendants. He agreed to remain in purgatory, along with the rest of his family members if they failed to kill Dracula. Despite the threat of never seeing heaven looming over him, Valerius the Elder could not bring himself to kill his son, so instead he built an icy fortress, which had only an entrance and no way to leave, and banished his son there. But this could never hold Dracula for a long time, as he called upon Satan once again, and he graciously offered Dracula a pair of wings so that he could come and go as he pleased. Valerius the Elder began researching different ways to kill his son, and after realizing that he was immune to most vampire weaknesses, discovered that the one and only thing that could kill Count Dracula was the bite of a werewolf. He hid the clues of his son's weakness in his castle for future generations to find. Count Dracula found out about this and soon devised a cure for the curse of the werewolf, which would turn any lycanthrope back to human. But this was just a failsafe, as his powers also let him control the will of werewolves, pleasing his brides. Dracula does not have any huge plans of conquering the world or establishing his own empire. All he wants to do is have a happy and peaceful undead life. So he takes on 3 brides, namely Alira, Verona, and Mariska. He soon begins to desire children, but for some reason, as soon as his children hatch out of their meaty pods, they begin to die. To help revive his children, Dracula partners up with Dr. Frankenstein and his servant Igor. As part 1 of his plan, he asks Frankenstein to create a monster to defy God and to show that he is not the only one capable of creating life. Frankenstein is successful in this plan, but the people of Transylvania have had enough of his unholy experiments and his grave robbing and attacked the castle where he was conducting his experiments. Meanwhile, Dracula asks Frankenstein to hand over his creation, but Frankenstein refuses, telling him that he would rather kill himself than support someone who intends only to insult God. Dracula offers to kill Frankenstein himself, as he had outlived his usefulness. Scared, Frankenstein pulls out a nearby sword and tries to threaten Dracula into backing off. But Dracula, the showman that he is, walks straight into the sword impaling himself. He tells Frankenstein that he is already dead, reveals his vampire form, and kills him. Just then, the monster wakes up and throws a huge machine at Dracula, throwing him into the fireplace, and escapes with the body of Frankenstein. Dracula comes out of the fireplace, burnt to the bone and his skull visible, but it is only a matter of seconds as he heals himself and, along with his brides, follows the monster, who runs into a windmill. The villagers set fire to the windmill, and it is completely destroyed. Assuming that Frankenstein's monster was destroyed along with it, Dracula employs Igor to continue the experiments, which would bring life to his children in his icy castle. The return of Gabriel Van Helsing. Gabriel Van Helsing, who has no memory of his past, is employed by the church and sent on a mission with Friar Carl to protect the last remaining descendants of Valerius the Elder, Velkin, and Anna Valerius, and make sure that Dracula dies before the siblings to ensure that their family gets a chance to enter heaven. The church believes that their lives are in danger, as their father, Boris Valerius, had mysteriously disappeared a year ago, and they suspected the hands of Dracula behind it. They were right in their suspicions, as Dracula had kidnapped Boris to use him in his experiment. Unfortunately, the experiment had failed once again and caused a lot of sorrow to Dracula and his brides. Dracula sends the werewolves under his command and his brides to end Anna and Velkin. While the werewolf successfully takes down Velkin and turns him, the brides fail their mission terribly, as Anna had the support of Van Helsing, who had arrived in Transylvania just a few moments before. Van Helsing kills Marischka in the ensuing battle, and her death wakes Dracula from his icy sleep. As he mourns, he consoles the two remaining brides, telling them that he will soon find a third and will wake his children. The brides are offended that Dracula is intent on finding a bride when Marischka was killed mere minutes ago. But Dracula tells them that he feels no emotions, like grief or sorrow, and tells them that their experiments will continue. The brides beg him not to, as they can't take any more loss, but he shuts them up with a horrific shout that scares them both. Dracula hugs them and asks them not to fear him, and the brides relent and kiss him. What a toxic relationship. Velkin, now a werewolf, comes under the control of Count Dracula and heads to his lair upon his command. He tries valiantly to fight him off, but Dracula tells him about how he used his father as a conduit in his experiments and replaces Boris with Velkin. This time, the experiment is successful, and his children sprout away from their pods and attack the villagers of Transylvania. As Van Helsing tries to kill the vampire offspring, Count Dracula decides to introduce himself. He knows that Van Helsing does not remember anything and offers to reinstate his memories for him, but Van Helsing repeatedly tracks him. First with a stake that does not even bother Dracula, and then with a holy cross that burns Dracula's hand, but soon turns to ash itself. Dracula leaves, telling Van Helsing that he will remind him of his past the next time they meet. Soon, Dracula's children begin exploding as they are unstable, and Van Helsing and Anna use this opportunity to escape with their new accomplice, Frankenstein's monster, who is the answer to all of Dracula's troubles, as he is the only conduit who can successfully bring forth Dracula's children. Count Dracula sends Velkin to kill them all. Though Velkin did not meet his master's demands, he managed to get his teeth on Van Helsing, converting him into a werewolf. Van Helsing kills Velkin, but soon he is forced to fight with the brides again. He takes down Verona, but Alira abducts Anna. The Final Showdown. Alira, as ordered by her master, invites Van Helsing to a masquerade ball, promising to return Anna to him in exchange for Frankenstein's monster. In the masquerade ball, Anna is still in a dazed state, and Dracula uses her unstable consciousness to kiss her. Anna pries herself apart, but Dracula offers her a place beside him as one of his brides. This is extremely weird, considering Dracula and Anna share a bloodline, and she is most like his great-great-great-grandniece or something. But sweet home Transylvania, I guess. He even opens his mouth to bite her and turns her into a vampire. But Van Helsing interrupts, and a deadly battle takes place with Van Helsing, converting into his werewolf form, and Dracula taking his true demonic form. Dracula tries to offer his friendship once again, telling Van Helsing that they are both hated by the entire world, and it would only make sense for them to team up. He again offers to help him remember his past, but Van Helsing tells him that it is best if some things remain unknown. In his werewolf form, Gabriel Van Helsing bites Count Dracula, and his flesh immediately begins to decay, eventually turning to ash. The strengths and physique of Count Dracula. Count Dracula, in his human form, is tall and charismatic with long black hair, a far throw from his horrifying demonic form, where he has bat-like wings and pale leathery skin, unlike modern vampires, who have only two fangs descending from where their carnivorous teeth are. Count Dracula's entire mouth is filled with sharp, pointy teeth, However, his mouth appears completely normal when he is in his human form and not feeding. He is immortal as long as he keeps feeding on blood, and he is immune to fire and stakes. With incredible strength and immunity, Dracula can fight nearly any foe on Earth and can control werewolves. Dracula also has the ability to heal himself quickly. His senses are sharper than that of a normal human being, and he can hear the heartbeat of a human standing far away from him. He can create other vampires by biting them and can also breed, but his children cannot survive without the help of some unnatural experiment. He is only killed by werewolf venom that is spread through a werewolf's bite, and he is also substantially weak against the attacks of a werewolf claw. Marvelous verdict. This iteration of Count Dracula was a wonderful mixture of biblical mythology and classic literature, and we are a bit disappointed that we do not get to see more adventures of Van Helsing. Why do you think Gabriel killed Dracula in 1462? Let us know your headcanons in the comments below, and please leave us a thumbs up if you liked the video. We will soon be back with more exciting explorations, and until then, take care and see you soon. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.